Welcome back to the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. Every day is Earth Day podcast. I have a special and wonderful and lovely and exciting guest today. We have Jacqui Patterson of Chisholm Legacy Project. And I am so excited to talk to Miss Patterson today. But before we get into the great conversation, just a little bit about Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. I'm Marnese Jackson. I am the inaugural executive director, and we are here to decarbonize buildings. That means residential homes, schools, commercial buildings before 2050. Our focus states are Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, and Ohio. And we have been doing these podcasts weekly because we want everyone to know Earth Day is every day. Clearly, we live on the Earth every day, and we have to keep this thing going. And then also that to remind us that we have to continue to do the work of climate justice, environmental justice. That's why we centered the work of the HIMAS principles for democratic organizing, the work that we do, because local solutions is where it's at. But then also that we have to pay more attention to communities that have been impacted by high energy burden and environmental racism. And so joining me today is Jacqui Patterson, founder and executive director of the Chisholm Legacy Project, a resource hub for Black frontline climate justice leadership. The mission of the Chisholm Legacy Project is rooted in a just transition framework, serving as a vehicle to connect Black communities, yes, on the front lines of climate justice with the resources to actualize visions. She was named the Time Magazine 2024 Woman of the Year for her revolutionary approach to climate justice work. Yes, and welcome, Jacqui. As for those who don't know, I'm gonna do it. People, yes, I'm gonna do it. Jacqui was my boss, and people don't like to use the word boss because it's so we don't use that word. But Jacqui was over the environmental and climate justice program at the NAACP, where I became a organizer, a fellow, and learned more about environmental and climate justice organizing, and met a lot of wonderful NAACPers doing the work in environmental and climate justice. So I wanted to say that because people like, oh my gosh, you know Jacqui? I say, I sure do. And they like she's far away, like, and I'm like, I actually know her. I mean, name dropping. I'm so silly. So, Jacqui, let's jump into the conversation. Is there anything else you would like us to know outside of Chisholm Legacy Project? And behind me, I do have a picture of Shirley Chisholm. She's one of my with Black women warriors that I look up to. So I just wanted to say so silly. So welcome.
Thank you. It's so good to be here with you. I am so excited to hear more about your work as well. So thank you for having me. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqui. So the first question I wanted to ask you, so congratulations on being Woman of the Year. That is definitely amazing. What does it mean to you to highlight climate justice to such a broader audience who may not understand the justice part of climate justice?
Yes, thank you. That was actually the only part of the award that was something that I embraced, being an extreme introvert. Otherwise, it was a bit much, but I appreciate the opportunity to put on a global stage the work and the importance of the frontline climate justice movement, because of course, so many of the folks who hold the mic and therefore the narrative has been, around everything from polar bears and melting ice caps. And, that's certainly a part of it and a critical part as well. But really wanting to lift up the stories and the leadership of those on the front lines. And so it was a good opportunity to be able to do that. And it has been interesting in terms of the feedback that I've gotten from various entities. Like, I didn't know was kind of the refrain. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know about this aspect of this climate change conversation. I want to learn more about this aspect of this climate change conversation now that I've been introduced to these stories as the kind of things that I'm hearing. And that makes it all worthwhile.
So my question is like, and maybe I'm just making an assumption. They don't know, like when you hear about Hurricane Katrina, when you hear about all this stuff that's happening internationally um, around climate change, even environmental justice, like you have poor water in Flint, Baltimore, Jackson. Like we can name it. Like we've been talking about this. Even like okay, we can just keep it like within our my age range because I don't know how old you are, Jackie. Yes, I do. But I'm not gonna say it, but I'm gonna say 70s. All right, like you didn't know about it. You know this
Yeah.
is the thing, or you don't want to know. It's
I think it's a combination because I think even the fact that you're naming, like, I think people think there are these nameable events, and they
mm-hmm,
don't realize the pervasiveness of all the communities that are living on the front lines. They don't realize just how common it is and how common it is with certain communities. And
mm-hmm,
so that's the part where there's a little more education that's needed. And I think certainly to some extent there's an element of denial and not actually looking further when you hear these stories, like, oh, is this the only one? So there's that. But some folks just, yeah, genuinely didn't know.
I'm sorry. That's just really unbelievable to me. Sometimes like where do you actually live? And I get it. Sometimes people just stay in their own little bubble
Yeah.
and just focus on what they want to focus on too. So or
Hmm.
what they may not know how to focus on it
Right.
because there's a perception when you go into black and brown communities that um, we don't do it in a certain type of way
Right.
that of course we're going to do harm to those communities like for example climate missionaries or we may come off like white supremacists and some people don't want to become fragile so I guess I get it from that perspective
Hmm.
but I wanted to know what does Earth Day every day mean to you? Like
Yeah.
especially since I'm saying we this is an everyday thing. This is just not on April the 22nd,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think I so appreciate that framing of Earth Day every day because Earth Day and the principles and the realities that it lifts up once a year should be the principles and realities that we live under every day of the year. A
Mm-hmm,
consciousness, a harmony, an understanding, and a respect for the earth. That shouldn't be kind of part of the eventism of our society. It should be a part of the lifestyle of our
mm-hmm.
of our culture. And so I very much appreciate that framing, the understanding that what we do every day has an impact on the earth. And so I I I uh, I appreciate the kind of this call to consciousness and call to action around what it means to be of the earth, which we all are, in a
Mm-hmm.
way, yeah, recognizes that consciously daily.
Yeah, but like, how do you continue to, get people to raise their consciousness, especially, we're working on equitable building decarbonization, and just me telling people, okay, like, this is not out of reach from you just because decarbonization is a big word, right? You have high utility rates. I can just talk about the advocacy efforts that's going on here in Michigan against our local utility DTE Energy, and I just tell people, oh, you do. So you, I was at a climate march this weekend. I'm like you like those high DTE bills? Guess what? Guess
Mm,
what? There's going to be another rate increase.
mm,
So like this is a perfect time to go beyond just turning off our lights. Outside of energy conservation, we need to really think about the advocacy because those bills are high, and then not to mention where it's coming from. So I tell people like, okay, I know we can't do everything in regards to like trying to save. We can work on our individual stuff that we can work on, because we have to start there individually. But to be, how do you raise the consciousness of everybody when we have these terminologies that just seem like so far away from the everyday person?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I think that the key is to make sure that we are utilizing like narrative strategy, recognizing
Mhm.
how people talk every day, and ensure that we are that we're being aware ourselves and conscious of how we're speaking about these things and making them accessible. So, as you say, instead of talking about really helping people to understand that places like public utilities commissions or public service commissions, that sounds like something that doesn't have anything to do with our everyday, like helping people to understand that like that's actually a place where you can influence what, the bills that you're paying, and you can influence the quality of the air that you're breathing, so helping people to just see the direct connection is really what we've been trying to do, is to connect the dots and make it all accessible for people, like simple actions that they can do that actually change the system, as an example.
Yeah. And so um, with the Chisholm Legacy Project, how does that relate to like since it is a hub? How does this relate to everyday people, and how would someone want to get involved? Like, tell us more about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. So the Chisholm Legacy Project, we actually, but when I was kind of naming it, I thought about calling it the Folding Chair Initiative
Hmm.
because, as we all know, Shirley Chisholm, one of her famous quotes is, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair," and that's what we seek to be for communities, for and with communities, and particularly to make sure that people have a connection to the tables of power, have a connection to the technical, financial, and informational resources that they need to do that frontline work. We start we prioritize working with communities that are completely disenfranchised, communities that no other organization is working in, communities that are in grinding poverty,
Hmm.
communities that have a significant Black population, and to some extent communities that are unincorporated. We also work with historically Black communities,
Okay.
and it's all about ensuring that communities that, whether it's been Ford or Reagan or Clinton or any of these past administrations, those communities haven't changed appreciably because they're not at the table. And so we really are working on being a bridge to those communities first and foremost. If there's other folks who want our assistance, who, we're here for it, but those are the communities that we reach out to proactively.
Hmm.
Um, and really, you talk about climate missionaries, we're kind of liberation missionaries. We reach out to those communities to say, our we exist to advance Black liberation, so we're here for you to serve. Yeah.
Thank you. And I love the liberation framework, because I think everybody can benefit from moving beyond just equity into more liberation. Because I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so with this project, with the projects that you're working on, what brings you joy and excitement about it? Because just hearing liberation, that's exciting. Ugh,
Yes, it
especially
is.
in the day of age that we're living in.
Exactly. Yeah, so what does bring me joy is when a community reacts like that. When we're in a community and community gets excited about engaging with us, and even more so once that community starts to because some of the communities that we're engaged in are either in crisis
Hmm.
or in a situation where they've really just accepted a plight of no running water, or a plight of no healthy and nutritious foods nearby, or a plight of whatever the things are, a plight of being surrounded by polluting industries. And what gets me really excited is when communities turn that corner and start to see that this isn't the way it has to be, that there should be no such thing as necessary evils. And
Right.
then they go beyond that to actually having a vision of being able to thrive, not just barely survive.
Hmm.
And so that turning point is the thing that gives me the most joy. And then to actually see people being able to grab the reins of self-determination and start moving in a self-sufficient way that that signals an exit for us to say, we're still in relationship, but we don't have to be here holding, or being a bridge, because the bridge has happened, and this community is enfranchised and is exercising self-determination. That is definitely what gives me the most joy in this work.
Self-determination. I totally agree, because the assumption is that black and brown communities are, we still need assistance, or that we're lazy, or we want a handout. And I love when you say self-determination, because we have solutions. We're not trying to survive. It's moving to the the thought process of thriving, right?
Yes.
If I'm self-determined, I'm going to be thriving, because I'm making sure that I'm building out my community of how I want to see my community look, versus how someone else thinks my community should look. um and so, you know, Jacqui, we would love to continue to have conversations on how we can, of course, support Chisholm Legacy projects at the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition, as we move more locally, and supporting our members. Why is building decarbonization important to the liberation of Black and Brown people?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting because I literally just realized recently this situation for myself, that I thought that when I was I thought that it was either like I had childhood allergies,
Hmm.
or that there was something in Chicago, like that I was allergic to whatever the air was in the place that I lived in Chicago. But now, just in the last couple of weeks, I actually connected the dots between the fact that I actually lived in a house that had mold, and I was allergic to mold. Like, I knew subsequently that I was allergic to mold because I moved into another place that had mold, and I realized that that was the thing that was happening there. But I still always thought that I just had childhood allergies, and I really just realized recently, thinking back, that it was only when I was at home that I did these allergies would spark up. And it wasn't that I was allergic to oak trees, which was the only thing that was in our area. So
Hmm.
that's all to say that that I think about all and I've been talking recently about folks who we share in common. Like, it was funny, somehow in a conversation we realized that all of us lived in homes where our basements flooded all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And we had like this little rake type thing that we had to do to like squish the water into the hole and it was just like our ritual whenever it rained. And I think about, and all the folks that I've been talking to who said, that and they were all people who lived in different places, all were black, and there was this our common denominator, that we had lived in homes where the basement flooded all the time. And so as I think about that, as I think about all the kids in our communities who had various respiratory illnesses or whatever, and I think about that common denominator of whether it's the homes that we're living in, the schools that we're going to, the various buildings that we are in are more likely to be the sick buildings, are more likely to be the less efficient building, energy efficient buildings, so we're paying higher bills, are more likely to be the buildings where not only are we paying higher bills, but not good as good ventilation. So as things get hotter, we're suffering from the heat effects. More likely to be in buildings that are in floodplain. All these different ways that our buildings are harming our health and well-being. And so that is where the importance of the work around building decarbonation, and the importance around that specifically for our communities, as we think about it as a multi-solving approach, not just getting carbon out of buildings, but
Right.
making buildings sustainable and livable for us all, is really where I would yeah, where I would say it's just a critical mission.
I totally agree. And Max, when you moved, were you renting? Because that's the hugest, like, red the hardest part around building
Yes.
decarbonization is the renters. I'm a renter still, and I have a gas stove, and my landlord, he when our gas stove went out, he came in and put another one in. I was like, can I get I don't think, like, look. And I sent him the resources, and he gonna send me back some DTE energy stuff. And I
Oh,
sent him back. I'm like, look, I
oh.
know. And I sent him stuff with IRA. So I'm like, look, let's talk about this because I don't.
Right.
It's like Leonard and Dawson
Yes.
have asthma at the end of the day, and I
Mhm.
shouldn't. This is. I gotta move. I just gotta get it together so I can just move.
Yes.
I gotta get it
Yes.
together.
That would be
But
good.
the ready
The
part, like
Randy part.
people don't have the luxury. Some
Right.
people to just buy a house, or nor do they want to, right?
Right. It's true.
So it's like creating a win-win for the landlord, the homeowner, or the renter will be
Yes.
ideal. But
Definitely.
I don't. So what do you wish people knew about energy and climate justice? Like,
Yeah. I wish that people knew that the well-being around, having lower energy bills, well-being around having cleaner air
mhm,
to breathe, well-being around not being besieged with disasters all of the time, all of those are very much interconnected into our energy system. And so I would hope that people would begin to really make those connections, so that we recognize that by completely revolutionizing our energy system into one that's more energy efficient and that draws from clean energy sources is a multi-solving approach. It solves for multiple challenges that we face, especially, well, for that we all face, but on different levels, different degrees.
mhm,
Hmm.
yeah. W- w- So with all these different um, movements, environmental, climate, energy, justice, what would you think is? No, I'm not going to ask that because I know they're all equally important. Okay, but like, why is it? Because okay, so I heard this somewhere
Hmm.
that the climate movement is not really something Black and brown folks are in or focus on. And I beg to differ, okay,
Hmm.
because of course I went through the ECJ program and understand the interconnectedness of all of it, right? But I heard that comment before, and some Black and brown organizers were saying that we don't need to be a part of that. And I'm looking like that's doing a very disservice to our
Hmm.
people, and we should refrain from like that narrative. Why do you think climate justice is just important? Is it because the climate justice is very saturated with, our white brothers and sisters? Is that what it is? Or I
Hmm.
just don't understand that type of thought process.
I think it does go back to what you were saying before, where we were both agreeing around narrative, because I think that folks have failed to make the connections around our everyday challenges and how they are directly connected to the climate continuum, from the fact that the drivers of climate change are also driving health challenges and other challenges in our communities,
Mhm.
to the fact that we're also more likely to be impacted because we're more likely to be in a floodplain. We're more likely to not have flood insurance. We're more likely to all of these different things, where the impacts on one side are greater in terms of like the results of climate change, but also we're just as impacted by the drivers of climate change in terms of the placement of those very facilities that
Mhm.
are emitting the greenhouse gas emissions alongside the other co-pollutants that are harming our health.
Right.
But I think that doesn't come across when people talk about climate change. People hear climate change and they think, again, polar bears and ice caps. They might think disasters, but they think kind of far off disasters, or they don't necessarily tie it to like the everyday challenges that we're facing, like with the deluge of rain that they're not necessarily making that link, and they're definitely seldom making the link to the pollution that we're facing in our communities.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you just published something. You want to
Oh,
tell us more about it? Woo!
you're
'Cause
funny.
I think this will be helpful for people who are still trying to get spun up on the language. So you
Okay.
want to tell us about it?
Is that the, because I published a couple of, do you mean the from
Mm.
adversity to advancement? That one? No.
No, hold on, hold on.
Okay.
Oh, no, no. It was just
Just.
it was just published, and I couldn't get the name real quick. Anyway, I feel
Oh,
bad.
do you mean the more money, more problem? No, you don't mean that.
Well, you can tell us about that because once again, I'm always having conversations with people about being bought out and bossed around, where the environmental movement, fundraising. So you can tell us more about that.
Okay. Well, one thing I will say, speaking of that, is I this year I would have loved to have published a third edition of the fossil fueled foolery
Okay.
paper, which does call out the ways that our communities are targeted by the fossil fuel companies to be co-opted, and that's one of the reasons why we again chose Shirley Chisholm as our muse and our inspiration, because her campaign slogan was unbought and unbossed, to really kind of rebuke the efforts of those types of entities. Mo Money, Mo Problems, similarly, is a video that we put out based on a parody of the song Mo Money, Mo Problems uh,
Mhm.
by Maze and so forth. But that song really talks about the fossil fuel industry and how it is harming us, and it also talks about the solutions, the ways that we need to move towards living in harmony with each other and with the earth and so forth. So I don't know. You might
So
have been.
she,
Oh,
so
go on.
no, so actually no, but I'm gonna before I go to the one that I was talking about,
Okay.
because Jackie has a lot of publications. I said let me just so knowing Jackie, her the names of her publications are long, and I want to get the name right. So the one that you all should go to on our website is the U.S. Organizations Connecting Gender Justice and Climate Justice, which one I read over. Then the racism that upheaves the
Okay.
cradle,
Yep.
upheaves the cradle.
Okay.
Okay,
Hmm.
thank you. And then who holds the power, dismissifying and democrat. Say it, Jackie.
Democratizing. I'm sorry.
Democratizing. See.
You're right.
Or these time public utility commissions. That one's a good one. And
Yes.
then the next one is displaced on repeat Black Americans and climate force mitigation.
Yes.
So and
Migration.
then the next, so it is got to be the adversity to advancement.
Yeah,
Yeah, that got
that's
to be the latest one. I haven't read it yet because.
okay. That's okay. We also call it the 1545 paper because it's 15 ways that Black Americans are impacted by climate change
Mhm,
disproportionately, and 45 ways that Black Americans are leading on climate justice. And so we really wanted to lift up that our communities are just as much the solutionaries,
mhm,
if not more, than we are the folks that are disproportionately impacted. Because people always want to pathologize, and
mhm.
we have to recognize just how much leadership we have. So yeah, so that from adversity advancement.
Wow, Charles, who he was one of the co-authors.
Yes.
He came on one of our youth podcasts when we were having
Oh,
that in the fall. So wow, that it's so
yeah,
good to know people who are like in the movement and co-authoring and stuff. That is so awesome.
definitely. Yeah, Charles is brilliant.
Hmm.
Working with him on that paper was amazing. And now, yeah, he's doing big
Yes.
things.
So there are some resources, and of course, after the podcast, we'll send those out to you to check those out because you have to get really spun up on all the work, and it's good to hear from someone in the movement who have created programs, who've been revolutionary in creating new programs and new projects for us to become better as Black and brown and indigenous low income community. So Jackie, outside of writing, because Jackie writes
Yes.
Jackie writing, oh my goodness, I remember when she had us writing those oh my goodness, those papers at the NOACP. I was like, oh.
Oh,
So since I worked there, we hated it.
you're so
But
funny.
I think it did do made us better as researchers.
Yeah.
So if you ever get into a fellowship, that is definitely a really good thing to do. Is really embrace research. And so, Jackie, outside of saving the world,
Mm.
the planet, Black people, and advocating for our liberation. What are your passions outside of work, Jacqui? Outside of
Okay.
work. No, no, don't even do it. Outside of work, what do you enjoy spending time doing?
Okay. Yes. No, the thing that I love best is being on or near the water. I love the water. If I could be by the water all the time, I'd be such a happy person. Yeah. Um
Oh, that's my
mhm.
favorite place too.
Yeah. So beautiful.
Water
And I
is
love
the best.
hiking. I love just spending time laughing with friends,
Okay.
and I like driving actually.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Driving,
Mhm.
you can really get into your own thoughts, listen to
Yes.
music, have your
Exactly.
own concert in the car.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, Jacqui, I really hope you're taking some time out for you.
Thank
Because
you.
shout out to Black women who are definitely leading organizations and other people. You have to take time out for you because, Black women, we're doing it. However, we don't rest sometimes. So I just say, Jacqui, please rest and do your self
Thank you.
care. So, would you like to leave us with anything? You gave us a lot of information. Please, everyone, check out those publications and figure out ways how you can support Chisholm Legacy Project.
Thank you. No, and I would say the same about the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. I'll leave it with that. That I'm so impressed and inspired by the work and by particularly, even though the name is building decarbonization, the recognition that it is about multi-solving, it is about the 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 holistic, making buildings livable, sustainable for us all. So thank you. It's been an honor to be on this conversation with you and to see more about your leadership as it continues to just blossom. And yes,
Thank you, Jacqui. That means a lot, and it's a lot of hard work. I
I'll
tell
bet.
you,
Yeah.
it's a lot of hard work. But coalition members, staff, we're doing it as we
Yeah.
become more official. Because we just got our 501(c)(3), so that was a big heavy lift. But then also our members, continuing to do the work locally, and so the team is continuing to do the work and support our members. So yes, it is definitely a hard work. So FYI, everyone who's starting a 501(c)(3), woo, it's a lot of
Yeah.
work, but just take your time. So it has been a joy, and thank you so much,
Thank you.
Jacqui, for always supporting me and
Absolutely.
coming to the call. So of course, we love to invite you all to be a part of the coalition whenever time fits, and
Yeah.
but then there's some upcoming events that we all will be having, and as you know. Of course, you all can sign up on our email list at midwestbdc.org, where you can join our future events. Of course, we are a virtual coalition, and we see each other when we see each other on the ground, because, of course, we want to save the planet and we don't want to do too much flying if we don't have to. But then also, we do miss each other, and when we see each other, it's so much fun. But our upcoming events, we have one more podcast that we're doing for our Earth Day Everyday series. We have a Pearly Amani. Out of Indianapolis, Indiana, and I'll be talking to her on tomorrow. Yay! And then we have our upcoming training on Thursday on affordable housing, tax credits, and building decarbonization. So, Jacob, our director of building decarbonization policy and projects, will continue to get us spun up on how to get access to these federal dollars that are coming down per the state level and get so we can use it locally. So, please continue to follow us, and we see you all next time. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you, Jacqui.
Thank you. Take care.